When news of the discovery broke, the community was shaken to its core. Headlines splashed across every major outlet. Routine traffic stop leads to shocking discovery. Man found driving with bodies in trunk. Suspect may be linked to multiple disappearances. Vigils were held for the victims. Families wept openly on camera, pleading for justice. Social media erupted with anger, demanding to know how someone like Daniel Cross had slipped through the cracks. Monsters don't always look like monsters, one local resident said in an interview. Sometimes they look like the guy next door. Connecting the dots. Forensic analysis soon linked Daniel's DNA to at least 2 other unsolved cases from the past 3 years. Women who had vanished without a trace. Their families had waited for answers, clinging to hope. Now, the truth was surfacing, and it was more horrifying than anyone imagined. The pattern became clear. Daniel wasn't just a killer. He was a hunter. He watched, waited, and struck when no one was looking. The notebook, the flash drive, the tools, all were part of a methodical ritual he had perfected over time. But even as evidence mounted, Daniel remained calm in custody. When pressed, he would only repeat the same phrase. They were chosen. Detectives debated what it meant. Was he part of something larger? A cult? A delusion? Or was it simply his twisted way of justifying the atrocities he had committed? The breaking point. On the 5th day of interrogation, Detective Ramirez tried a new tactic. Instead of pushing, he sat silently across from Daniel, letting the weight of the silence grow. Finally, Ramirez slid a photograph across the table, the smiling face of one of the victims, taken before her disappearance. Daniel's eyes flickered, just for a second. His calm mask cracked. "You followed her for weeks," Ramirez said quietly. "We saw the footage on your drive. She was 21 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. You didn't choose her. You stole her. You took her future. You destroyed her family." Daniel clenched his fists, his composure unraveling. "She wouldn't stop fighting." Ramirez leaned in. "Because she wanted to live. Because you're not some chosen messenger. You're a coward." The room went still. Daniel's breathing grew heavy. And then, almost like a switch, he whispered something that made the detective's blood run cold. "There are more." Ramirez froze. "More what?" Daniel's lips curled into a chilling smile. "More bodies. You'll never find them all." The search expands. Those words detonated like a bombshell. Search teams were dispatched immediately, combing through areas connected to Daniel's past. Old job sites, abandoned buildings, wooded trails he was known to walk. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Every lead was pursued. The discovery of the 3 bodies in his trunk had only been the beginning. Investigators now feared they were dealing with a serial killer whose true body count was far higher. And as Daniel sat in his cell, eerily calm once more, one thought haunted the detectives. How many lives had he taken? And how long had he been hiding in plain sight? The shocking trial, verdict, and the last twist. The courtroom was packed. Not a single seat remained empty. Reporters filled the back rows, cameras flashed outside the doors, and the world tuned in to watch a case that had gripped the nation. The state versus Marcus Hale. Marcus sat at the defense table, dressed in a crisp gray suit. His once calm demeanor was cracking. Dark circles rested beneath his eyes. His lawyer whispered to him, but Marcus's gaze stayed fixed on the jury. 12 strangers who now held his fate. The prosecution wasted no time painting Marcus as a cold-blooded killer. Prosecutor. "Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence is clear. 2 human bodies were discovered in the trunk of Marcus Hale's vehicle. He lied to officers. He resisted arrest. He concealed evidence. His fingerprints were found all over the trash bags. The cause of death, blunt force trauma, matches the hammer discovered in his garage. This was no accident. This was murder." The jury shifted uncomfortably. The defense countered with a story of innocence. Defense attorney. My client is a victim of circumstance. Marcus Hale did not kill anyone. He found himself in a terrible situation, forced to transport those bodies out of fear for his life. The real killers threatened him, they used him, and then they disappeared, leaving him as the fall guy. The trial dragged on for weeks. Witnesses testified. Forensic experts presented charts and diagrams. Police officers, including Officer Daniels and Officer Ruiz, the ones who made the original traffic stop, spoke with steady voices about the night they opened the trunk. The prosecution's strongest evidence was the hammer, found in Marcus's garage with faint traces of blood. DNA testing confirmed it belonged to one of the victims. The defense argued the hammer was planted, but the truth? Nobody knew for sure. The emotional testimony. Then came the day of the emotional testimony. The victims' families took the stand. Mothers wept. Brothers clenched their fists in anger. A father spoke through broken words. Father of victim. My son was only 23. He had dreams. He had a future. And all of it was stolen. We may never know why, but we know who did it. And that man is sitting right there. He pointed directly at Marcus. The courtroom went silent. Even Marcus lowered his head. The verdict approaches. As the trial neared its end, the nation held its breath. News channels ran live coverage. Social media erupted with debates. Was Marcus guilty, or was he a pawn in a larger conspiracy? The defense delivered a passionate closing argument. Defense attorney: reasonable doubt. That is all it takes. You don't have to know Marcus is innocent. You only need to doubt his guilt. And with evidence this circumstantial, how could you not? The prosecution thundered back. Prosecutor: reasonable doubt does not mean ignoring the truth. Marcus Hale killed 2 people. He stuffed them into his trunk. He thought he could get away. But justice has caught up with him. The jury left to deliberate. Hours turned into a full day. And then, the verdict was ready. The verdict. The courtroom stood still as the foreman rose. Judge: has the jury reached a verdict? Foreman: yes, Your Honor. He unfolded the paper. Everyone held their breath. Foreman: we, the jury, find the defendant, Marcus Hale, guilty of murder in the first degree. Gasps filled the courtroom. Marcus's knees buckled. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but Marcus shook it off. He slammed his fists on the table. Marcus: no, you don't understand. I didn't do it. They set me up. Bailiffs rushed in, restraining him as he shouted. The families of the victims wept in relief. The prosecutor nodded with grim satisfaction. The judge's gavel struck hard. Judge: order! Order in the court! Marcus was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The case seemed closed. Justice, it appeared, had been served. But the story was not over. The twist. Months later, in the darkness of a federal penitentiary, Marcus sat alone in his cell. He had stopped speaking to reporters. He had stopped writing appeals. His eyes were hollow, his voice weak. But one night, a guard delivered a letter. No return address, just his name scrawled on the front. Marcus opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It read, "We told you to keep quiet. Now you know what happens when you talk. K." Marcus's heart raced. He pressed the paper to his chest. His worst fear had been confirmed. Someone else was involved. Someone powerful enough to frame him and get away with it. The revelation. Investigators would later learn fragments of truth. A shadowy figure, known only by the initial K, had connections to organized crime. The victims were linked to an underground gambling ring. And Marcus? He had been their bookkeeper. But when things went bad, Marcus was left to carry the blame. The bodies in his trunk? Not his doing. The hammer? Planted? The truth? Buried under lies, manipulation, and fear. Yet none of that mattered anymore. Marcus would die in prison, branded a killer. And so, the story of the traffic stop that shocked the world ends not with justice, but with shadows. Because sometimes the scariest truth is this: innocent or guilty. Once the world decides your fate, there may be no turning back. As for Officer Daniels, the man who first opened that trunk, he would later confess in an interview that he still had nightmares. "I see those bags every night," he said. "And sometimes I see Marcus's face, too. And I wonder, did we really catch the killer? Or did we just open a door we'll never be able to close?" This was the case that haunted a city, divided a nation, and left questions that may never be answered. The story of Marcus Hale proves that sometimes the scariest monsters don't hide in the dark. They hide in plain sight. Thank you for watching. If you were the jury, what would your verdict have been? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, subscribe to True Life Stories TV for more chilling real-life stories.